Thomas the Tank Engine was certainly a great show in its early days, dealing with more mature and well-written plotlines than pretty much any other TV show out there. However, the one show that could claim to be more mature and perhaps even better written than Thomas was Tugs. Focusing on a fleet of talking tugboats, this show was intense. Most people in the Thomas fandom do know about Tugs, and so I'm not going to spend any longer explaining it. There are plenty of great videos on the subject already. Today, I want to talk about a specific episode of Tugs, and why it's my favourite of the show. I'm joined by tons of Trackmasters in my first ever collab, and my name is the Thomas Cynic. Without further ado, let's talk about some boats. If you ask pretty much any Tugs fan what their favourite episode is, you'll likely hear one of three answers. They might say Munitions, because of the epic build-up and all the explosions, not to mention one character dying and another developing shock. They might say High Tide, because it focuses on Top Hat, who is easily the most fun character the show has to offer. Or they might say Pirate, for its balance between a dark plot line and comedic genius. But an answer I don't think you'd hear as often is High Winds, the 11th episode of the short-lived series. And yet, this is my favourite episode. Why is that? Well, today, I want to go over a few reasons why this episode is the strongest that Tugs has to offer. First of all though, I'd like you to meet my co-host today, Tons of Trackmasters. You might know him, he has a great channel about, well, Trackmasters, which will be linked in the description. So, Tons, what are your thoughts on High Winds in general?
High Winds from Tugs is one of the best episodes which they've made, in my opinion, behind Munitions, as that one's just wow. Anyway, High Winds is a very cool one. It's got some action with Johnny Cuba, of course, the gangster, and then you've got Zebedee redeeming himself, or kind of redeeming himself, not sure. Very interesting one, very cool one in my opinion, and definitely Tugs going in a different direction from what they usually did.
Personally, I find that a really interesting take. One of the main reasons I love this episode is due to how unique it is. This is the only episode of Tugs to focus on a Z-Stack, and takes a character that previously was basically just set dressing, and gives him a really compelling character arc. Zebedee's conflict here is perfect. He just wants to do the right thing, and he isn't like the other Z-Stacks. He's only on their fleet to get by, and he'll even help star Tugs if need be. The main thing I think is great about Zebedee is that he has a very clearly defined moral code. He has a very strong sense of honour. If someone helps him out, he considers himself to owe them a favour, and vice versa. He'll even disobey direct orders from Zoran, his superior, if it goes against what he thinks to be right. That said, this also extends in the other direction. While he isn't like the other Z-Stacks, there's nothing for him to gain by joining the Stars. He refuses 10 cents' offer to do just that at the end of the episode, and it once again shows he's just in port to get by. He doesn't want to cause conflict or discord, he just wants to stick to his moral compass. So that's Zebedee, a really well written character. So while he's great, his arc with the Stars and Zoran isn't actually the best part of this episode. No, that honour belongs to Johnny Cuba.
In terms of Johnny Cuba, I think he's definitely one of the most fleshed out characters in the entire show, even though he appeared in an episode. Tugs somehow did that with like a bunch of their episodes, and I think it's really cool. So of course Johnny Cuba is a gangster from Australia, I believe, and he comes to infiltrate the port, and he's got bad history with Captain Zero, and it's so cool how there's so much about him which we learn in so little time. I think that's something which Cardona and Mitten did really, really well. Very good character, very fleshed out, and one of my personal favourites.
Johnny Cuba was a really serious and gritty character, which the show didn't beat around the bush with. It stated, plain and simple, that he is evil. He is a gangster, a boat bandit if you will. His previous connection with Captain Zero also adds a real level of mystery to the story. The death threats he makes to Zebedee are really quite horrifying, particularly for a show with connections to the likes of Thomas the Tank Engine. This episode also features some great moments from characters beside our main protagonists and antagonists. Hercules captures Johnny with help from Zebedee, the Coast Guard gets a nice secondary appearance, and we also see OJ being a real presence when the Stars are docking the Princess Alice. Speaking of which, the docking of the Princess Alice is one of my favourite scenes in Tugs. It doesn't impact on the plot too much, the episode as a whole isn't really focused on action, but it shows that Zebedee doesn't really owe his allegiance to the Z-Stacks, but rather to his moral code that we mentioned earlier. The build-up and the tension makes no bones about it, the Starfleet are in real danger here. With 10 senses, frantic cries, the mighty Big Mac struggling helplessly, and the normally collected leader Hercules looking a bit stressed, really puts you on the edge of your seats. And then Zebedee comes in, and the tone completely shifts to full-out triumphant. Zebedee's no longer hiding his true colours, he only owes allegiance to the goodness within him. Finally though, I'm going to hand it back to Tuns to give a summary of why this episode deserves to be remembered. Take it away.
And yeah, High Winds is a very cool episode. It does not have that much action, I guess. Like, you've got explosions in munitions in just about every single other Tugs episode, but High Winds stays relatively calm on that fact, despite the fact that there's like a major criminal there, but you know, that's something else. They went in a completely different direction. It's very, very cool, and I really think that it's one of the best Tugs episodes and still holds up to this day. Thank you very much to the Thomas Cynic to inviting me to this collab, and have a great day.
So that's why High Winds is my favourite episode. All of these points that both I and Tuns have been talking about stack up to make it feel truly unique and unlike any other Tugs episode out there. Thank you so much for watching, and massive thanks again to Tons of Trackmasters for joining me today. Please check out his channel, he makes some incredible content. His channel will be linked in the description, so head down there and subscribe to him. This has been the Thomas Cynic, and until the next time, have a good one.